She was ruthless, a gold digger who chased married men. She ruined homes, collected money like trophies, ignored the tears of wives who begged her to let their husbands go. To her, love was transaction, marriage was an opportunity. She thought she had finally won. But what happens when a gold digger meets someone who digs deeper? Before you judge her, listen to her story.
In the beautiful, bubbling city of Lagos, the night had more life than the day. When the sun went down, the city woke up. Music spilled from clubs, headlights painted the roads, and money moved faster in the dark. In one of the biggest estates in Lagos lived Rebecca. Rebecca did not believe in hard work or doing a regular 9-to-5 job. She believed in soft life. Why suffer when enjoyment was available? Why wake up early to work when men were ready to spend? That was her philosophy, and she lived by it. Rebecca was beautiful, not the kind you ignore. Smooth skin that caught light easily. Curves that announced her presence before she spoke. A body carefully sculpted, enhanced, perfected, not by accident, but by doctors. She invested in herself, and she expected nothing but returns. When Rebecca walked into a place, heads turned. Men noticed, women whispered. Some admired, some judged. Rebecca didn't care which. Attention was currency, and she was rich in it. Rebecca refused jobs the way people refused insults. "Why will I suffer?" she often said, laughing. Men are working already. Her targets were big men, married men, powerful men, lonely men with money but no excitement. Men who wanted to feel young again. Men who wanted to cheat on their wives. She studied them, she understood them, and she knew exactly where to find them. One of her favorite hunting grounds was the airport. On airport days, Rebecca dressed differently. Classy, expensive, international. Hair laid, glasses on. Designer bag swinging gently. She dragged a suitcase like someone about to miss a first-class flight. She never rushed. She positioned herself carefully. Sat where eyes could find her. Stood where conversations could start. Men hovered. "Are you traveling? Business or vacation? Can I have your number?" Rebecca smiled politely. Sometimes she acted shy, sometimes confident, sometimes distracted. She let them talk first. By the time she left the airport, she already had contacts. 1 or 2 serious ones. That was enough. At home later, she would sit on her bed, phone in hand, and plan. Who to respond to first, who to keep warm, and how to build them slowly. Rebecca never rushed money. She cooked it. Luxury hotels were another stage. 5-star lounges, private beaches. Yes, she spent money to enter these places, but she always got more than she spent. Rebecca understood something most people didn't. Sometimes you pay to be seen. You invest in yourself to attract these rich men. Her lifestyle was sponsored quietly. One married man paid rent. Another handled shopping. Another covered vacation. Rebecca was not broke. She was a smart gold digger. She was strategic. When she noticed a man spending reducing, she didn't argue. She didn't beg. She simply moved on. Next location, next target. To Rebecca, this wasn't wickedness. It was survival. It was smart. At least that's what she told herself to help her sleep at night. And for a long time, it worked. People are not born cruel. They are taught quietly. Rebecca did not wake up one day and decide to ruin marriages. She learned it. She grew up inside it. Rebecca's childhood was not loud. It was heavy. Her father was a man everyone respected outside. Strong voice, big presence. People greeted him with smiles. But inside the house, he was someone else. Women were his weakness. Different faces, different body size, different tribes. He was a chronic womanizer. Rebecca watched her father's sick chick walk in confidently, laughing too loudly, acting like they were part of the family. And her mother. Her mother watched too, silently in tears. Her mother was a quiet woman, the kind that swallowed pain so the house could have peace. She cooked, cleaned, waited. She never raised her voice. The perfect definition of an understanding wife. Sometimes Rebecca would see her mother kneel, begging, not her husband, but the women. "Please leave my marriage alone. Please, I have children." Rebecca watched grown women look down on her mother with pity, and sometimes with pride, If her mother ever spoke up to her father, the house would change. The air would become thick. He would threaten to divorce her. Rebecca learned early that men do not deserve good women. So her mother stayed and slowly disappeared inside herself. Loneliness killed her mother long before death did. She died sad, married yet alone, surrounded yet abandoned. Rebecca stood at her grave and felt something twist inside her. Not tears, not forgiveness, something colder. People expected Rebecca to hate married men, to avoid them, to protect other women. But pain doesn't always teach kindness. Sometimes it teaches revenge. Rebecca didn't just hate her father, she hated the women who came after him. She hated how easily they destroyed her mother's home. And somewhere along the line, hate turned into pleasure. She became the exact thing that destroyed her mother. Rebecca discovered something early. Married men begged more. They promised more. They feared exposure. They paid better. She loved the way they shook when she threatened to walk away. She loved the midnight calls, the desperation, the lies told in whispers. But what truly gave her joy? The wives, the calls, the messages, the threats, the begging. Please leave my husband alone. Those words did something to Rebecca. They echoed her mother's voice, and instead of pain, Rebecca felt power. Her beauty was not accidental. She didn't just enhance her body. She perfected her weapon. Every curve was intentional. Every look calculated. She became the woman her mother feared. But Rebecca didn't stop there. In Africa, we know beauty alone does not hold a man. So Rebecca added belief. Quiet visits, silent rituals, things not spoken about openly. Call it superstition, call it juju, call it whatever you want. Rebecca called it insurance. Men became obsessed, irrational, generous beyond sense. They bought her houses, cars, designer bags, and luxury vacations. They did everything she desired, willingly. And when she was done draining them financially, Rebecca could leave, calmly, cleanly. Sometimes she returned them to their wives. Sometimes she vanished when blogs got tagged and noise became too loud. There was always another rich married man, another location, another marriage. Rebecca told herself this lie every night. If my mother had agreed for money, she wouldn't have suffered. So she chose money over love, even if it meant becoming the very thing that broke her mother's home. And the city. The city watched quietly, because stories like Rebecca's never end where they begin. Rebecca didn't just date rich men, she ruled one. His name was Mr. Reno. In the city, that name carried weight. A politician so powerful people lowered their voices when they mentioned him. He wasn't just wealthy, he was rich in every currency. Money moved around him effortlessly. Influence followed him like a shadow. And he was married, with children, a public family. But behind closed doors, Mr. Reno belonged to Rebecca. He didn't chase her, he claimed her. From the moment he saw her, Rebecca knew this was different. This wasn't pocket money. This wasn't weekend spending. This was legacy-level wealth. She didn't rush him. She stayed. For years. Mr. Reno gave her everything. A fully furnished house in a high-end area. Cars that speak luxury. Vacations that didn't make it to Instagram because some luxury was too expensive to show. Rebecca lived softly, quietly, securely. This was not hunting anymore. This was settling. For the first time in her life, Rebecca didn't need strategy. She didn't need airports or lounges. Gold flowed naturally, and she dug happily. Mr. Reno's wife fought. She cried, she begged. She sent threatening messages. She tried prayers, threats, pastor, and politics. Nothing worked. Rebecca had locked the gold mine. Mr. Reno was obsessed, not loudly, but deeply. He protected Rebecca fiercely. He warned his wife never to mention her name again. For years, Rebecca felt untouchable. This was not like the other men. This was not borrowed money. This was not a temporary arrangement. This was gold upon gold. Then one morning, everything stopped. The calls ceased. The guards disappeared. The gates opened to silence. Mr. Reno was dead. A sudden illness, they said. A quiet announcement. A loud funeral. The city mourned a leader. Rebecca lost a gold mine. At the burial, Rebecca watched from a distance. She wore dark glasses and heavier makeup. She wasn't allowed to cry publicly. She wasn't allowed to exist there. And just like that, the gold mine closed. She did not lose her house. She did not lose her cars. She did not go broke. Mr. Reno had prepared her financially. But what Rebecca lost was stability and steady flow of money to fund her expensive lifestyle. Rebecca learned something that day. Not painful, just practical. Even the richest mind can collapse without warning. So she returned to the streets she once abandoned. Not in desperation, not in poverty, but in search mode. The soft life hadn't ended. It had only paused. She dressed better, moved smarter, haunted married men quieter. This time she wasn't looking for pocket money or quick wins. She was looking for another gold mine, or more like old money. And that was when she met Femi. Not loud, not flashy, not desperate, just observant. Rebecca smiled when their eyes met. She thought she had found gold again in a younger body. She had no idea. She had just met the man who would teach her a lesson money never could. Rebecca met Femi when she wasn't desperate, and that mattered. She was glowing again, not hunting recklessly, not scrambling, just open enough to notice someone new. Femi didn't look like the men she usually dealt with. He looked settled, young and rich. Quiet confidence, clean dressing, no unnecessary noise. When he spoke about money, he didn't boast. When he spent, he didn't count. He paid calmly, effortlessly, and he paid better. Their first few outings felt different. No sneaking, no hiding, no rushed hotel meetings. Femi took her places in daylight. He held her hand openly. He introduced her to people as his woman. That alone disarmed Rebecca completely. Femi's lifestyle matched, even exceeded, hers. He drove one of the most expensive cars in Lagos, the kind that made heads turn at traffic lights. His house sat comfortably on Banana Island, quiet, gated, powerful. The kind of place that didn't need explanation. They traveled together. Dubai, Paris, private beaches. Femi loved luxury and he loved sharing it. But more than money, Femi talked about marriage. He spoke of forever, of settling down, of building something real. Rebecca listened. For the first time in a long while, she wasn't calculating exits. She wasn't timing bills. She wasn't planning the next man. She stayed. She was already falling in love with the idea of starting a family. Everyone knew them. Friends admired them. Strangers envied them. Social media whispered about them. Rebecca glowed differently with Femi. Softer, warmer. She laughed more, trusted more. She even began to imagine a future that didn't involve moving from one man to another. She didn't know that while she was falling in love, Femi was studying, calculating and plotting how to take all her possession. Femi had heard about Rebecca long before he met her. He knew her reputation. He knew her lifestyle. He knew she had money, quiet money, stacked from years of strategy. And he had a plan. Femi was married, with children. A real family tucked far away from the city glare. The Banana Island life, carefully curated. The expensive car, rented. The luxury, temporary performance to gain Rebecca's trust. Everything Femi did was intentional. To get Rebecca's attention, earn her trust, and make her fall completely. Because love, he knew, was the fastest way to open a woman's wallet. Rebecca never asked too many questions. She had dated powerful men before. She had seen married lives end successfully. So she ignored the small gaps, the unavailable moments, the calls he stepped outside to answer. She trusted the lifestyle. She trusted the love. She trusted Femi. And Femi, he smiled, because the trap he set for Rebecca was closing perfectly. Love changed Rebecca. Not suddenly. Slowly. She began to invest. At first it was emotional. She trusted Femi with parts of herself she had never given freely before. She listened when he spoke about the future. She imagined mornings that didn't involve strategy, airports, or calculations. Then the investments became financial. Femi spoke beautifully about us, our future, our home, our life outside Nigeria. He said Nigeria was noisy, unstable, that it deserved peace somewhere abroad, a country where nobody knew them, where they could start fresh. Rebecca agreed easily. She was tired of sleeping around with different men, tired of hiding, tired of being temporary. That was when Toby began to worry. Toby was Rebecca's friend, not impressed by luxury, not blinded by romance. She listened more than she spoke, and something about Femi didn't sit well with her. So she investigated, quietly. What Toby found shook her. Femi was married with children, a real wife, a real family, not rumors, facts. Toby confronted Rebecca gently at first. Be careful, she said. Something about this man is not right. Rebecca laughed. Jealousy, she thought. After all, she had lived this life longer than Toby. She had dealt with married men before. She knew the signs, but Toby insisted. This one is different, she warned. This man is dangerous. Rebecca got angry. She accused Toby of envy, of bad energy, of trying to ruin her happiness. And when she finally asked Femi with the picture Toby had sent her, he smiled. That's my sister, he said calmly. Rebecca frowned. Her husband died, Femi continued. I'm the one training the children. She's all I have. He sounded convincing, hurt. He even gave Rebecca the phone to talk to the wife. And after confirming it that she was Femi's sister, Rebecca apologized to Femi. She believed him. She always believed him. What Rebecca didn't know was this. Femi's wife was not hidden. She was involved. They were not rich. They were tired of surviving. And they had decided together to escape poverty together. Femi would be the face. The wife would stay invisible. She laid low, stayed quiet, played her role perfectly. And the plan worked. The first major investment came quickly. Femi suggested they buy a house in Europe. Something solid, something permanent. Rebecca brought the money. Femi brought fake documents. Everything looked real. Stamped, signed, convincing. But the house was never hers. Her name was nowhere on the real papers. Only Femi's. Then came the white wedding. Small, private, expensive. Just enough people to make it feel official. Just enough luxury to silence doubt. Rebecca glowed. She wasn't a side woman anymore. She was a wife. They moved in together. They became the couple everyone admired. Rich, stylish, untouchable. Then Femi aimed higher. Let's buy the biggest house on Banana Island, he said one evening, casually, like it was just another idea. Rebecca paused, not because she couldn't afford it, but because it felt like a leap. Femi noticed the hesitation immediately. He always did. He moved closer, lowered his voice, softened his tone. Listen, he began, the way he did when he wanted to sound practical instead of romantic. My money is tied up right now. Tied? Rebecca asked. Yes, I'm securing a football contract with a major European club. Big deal. Massive numbers. But you know how these things work? Negotiations, legal reviews, image rights. The funds are frozen until it closes. He spoke fluently, confidently, like a man used to large transactions. Rebecca listened carefully. This is temporary, he continued. Once that contract is signed, I'll reimburse you fully. With interest, I promise. He took her hand, but think about it strategically. Banana Island property doesn't depreciate. It appreciates. Fast. We buy now. We hold for a short period. And when we relocate to our place in Europe, we sell it for almost double. He smiled. It's not spending. It's investing. Rebecca's hesitation softened. Femi always made money sound like a chessboard. Calculated, intelligent, forward-thinking. We're not just buying a house, he added. We're positioning ourselves. When people see where we live, doors open. Business conversations change. Status matters. He was right about that. In Lagos, address was power. And Banana Island was the loudest statement you could make without speaking. Rebecca looked around the temporary house they were in and imagined something bigger. High ceilings, marble floors, a walk-in closet large enough to echo. A nursery someday. This is our future, Femi whispered. Our children will grow up knowing comfort. We won't struggle. We won't depend on anybody. That word, children, sealed it. Rebecca nodded. I'll transfer the money, she said quietly. The purchase moved quickly. agents, lawyers, meetings. Femi handled the technicalities. Rebecca handled the funds. Soon they moved into one of the most expensive houses in Banana Island. Luxury cars lined near the driveway. Uniformed guards at the gate. Neighbors who were CEOs and politicians. Their life screamed success. At night, Rebecca would stand by the balcony, looking at the calm lagoon waters, feeling secure. Femi would wrap his arms around her and talk about Europe. Just a few months, he would say. Once the football contract closes, we finalize the property abroad. That's when real life begins. Rebecca didn't doubt him. Why would she? This was her husband. This was their plan. This was love, wrapped in strategy. And Femi? Femi was already counting down. And just when everything seemed perfect, Rebecca missed her period. She was pregnant. And with that single discovery, everything changed. Rebecca found out on a quiet morning after our delayed period, sitting at the toilet seat with just a test strip and the truth she hadn't prepared for. She smiled. For the first time in her life, the future didn't feel like strategy. It felt real. A child. A family. Something permanent. She told Femi that evening, glowing with excitement, already imagining names, baby clothes, a softer version of herself. Femi didn't smile. He went quiet. Too quiet. It's too soon, he said gently, like someone reasoning with a child. We're still young. We're still enjoying life. We have investments to finish. We're relocating. He spoke of timing, of planning, of giving their child a better life. Imagine giving birth abroad, he added. Citizenship, a strong passport, a better future. Rebecca listened. He sounded reasonable. He always did. She hesitated, just once, but this was her husband. This was their dream. This was love. So she agreed. They said they would try again, later, at the right time. Rebecca told herself she was being smart. Afterward, something inside her went quiet. She didn't cry loudly. She didn't complain. She carried it silently, like she had learned to do growing up. But Femi changed. The warmth reduced. The tenderness faded. The affection felt managed. Rebecca noticed, but she excused it. Stress, she told herself. Business pressure. Relocation plans. She held on tighter. She didn't know that moment was a turning point. Not because she lost a child, but because she gave up something precious for someone who had already planned his exit. Femi became distant, busier, unavailable. And Rebecca, for the first time in her adult life, felt emotionally naked. What she didn't know was this. Femi no longer saw a future to protect. He had gotten what he needed. And the countdown had begun. Femi did not move out. That was the first lie Rebecca told herself. He had traveled, he said, just briefly, to set things up, to prepare their future abroad. Rebecca believed him because believing was easier than questioning. She stayed in the Banana Island house, their house, surrounded by silence that felt temporary. Until one afternoon, strangers arrived. They were calm, polite, confident. They carried documents. They said the house had been sold. Rebecca laughed at first. Impossible. She went inside and brought out her own papers. The documents Femi had shown her, the ones she had trusted with her life savings. The men studied them quietly. Then one of them spoke. Madam, these ones are not valid. Her chest dropped. She checked again. The stamps looked real. The signatures looked real, but they weren't. Rebecca sat down slowly. The house she thought she owned had never been hers. That night, she checked her accounts. Balances she had never questioned before now stared back at her. 0, 0, nothing. Her money, years of careful accumulation, strategy, sacrifice, gone. Every transfer had been authorized, every withdrawal clean. She realized then that Femi hadn't stolen from her forcefully. She had handed everything to him. Still, Rebecca hoped for one thing, that at least something had been real. So she traveled to the village Femi had taken her to during their marriage, the place where he had introduced people as his parents, his relatives, his roots. She arrived shaking, and there, the final truth waited for her. The house, rented, the parents, paid actors, The neighbors, actors. Nobody knew Femi. Nobody remembered a son. Nobody remembered a wedding. Rebecca stood there, surrounded by strangers who had once smiled at her like family. And something inside her finally broke. She cried, not beautifully, not quietly. She cried like someone mourning a life that never existed. Everything had been staged. The love, the marriage, the family, the future. Femi had not just stolen all her money. He had erased her reality. People whispered different stories. Some said Femi was in the Bahamas. Others said the Caribbean. Wherever it was far and unreachable. Rebecca returned to Lagos as a changed woman. Quieter, regretful. The city that once bent for her no longer noticed her. 3 months later, truth found her again. This time it came softly. A delay. A test. 2 lines. She was pregnant. Rebecca sat on the edge of the bed for a long time, holding the result like a verdict. No husband, no money, no protection, just a child. And consequences. For the first time, Rebecca saw the full circle. She had chased gold without asking where it came from. She had taken joy in breaking homes. She had mistaken control for power. And in the end, she became what she never expected to be. A victim. Not because she was weak, but because she believed she was untouchable. Rebecca placed her hand on her stomach. This time there was no plan, no strategy, just truth. And as Lagos buzzed outside her window, indifferent as always, Rebecca understood something her younger self never could. When you dig without care, you don't always find gold. Sometimes you become it.